avoid Trump position. Ой, я ж тебе.
The thumb should never be curled this way or bent out that way. Either way, I can't even do it when it just bends out this way. It's an outside curl. It often causes to pain in the thumb itself. It extends into the wrist, into the forearm. When we move the other fingers, it's the flexor muscles that are involved in dropping our fingers. It's the flexor muscles that are involved in dropping our fingers. When the thumb flexes, it moves under the hand. That's the flexing action of the thumb. When it plays down, it extends. It uses an abductor, which is a kind of an extensor. And if you want to see the difference, if you take your second finger and you move up and down, that's using the flexor. When you move sideways, that's using the abductor. See, it's a slow muscle. So this is the muscle that moves the thumb. So it's an inferior muscle in terms of speed.
States, President Trump points to Joe Biden's unprecedented and astonishing election performance. When America's Jen Pellegrino has that report. President Trump called it a must-read, arguing that it's, quote, impossible for Biden to overcome these and even greater odds. This in reference to a Federalist article entitled 5 More Ways Joe Biden Magically Outperformed Election Norms. In the election that elicited new chants from Trump supporters, at least 74 million of them, to hold the line and stop the steal, it's impossible to ignore the facts or forget the warnings that preceded the outcome. Author J.B. Shirk outlines for the Federalist the peculiar election performance of the former vice president. First, unprecedented voter turnout. In no prior election has an incumbent president gained votes, over 10 million more of them this time for President Trump, and lost the election. Yet it appears 80 million Americans opted for a man who spent 47 years in office and told black Americans that they weren't black if they didn't vote for him. In fact, those 80 million votes shatter Barack Obama's record for most votes ever cast for a presidential candidate by 16 million. Second, the mainstream media says Joe Biden is now the president-elect. Operating under that assumption, it's a win despite losing the states and counties that typically predict the outcome of the election. This is the first time in 60 years that a candidate has lost the states of Florida and Ohio on the way to winning the White House. Third, Biden's performance compared to Hillary Clinton's in 2016. An analysis of election data reveals another curious outcome. Biden underperformed Hillary Clinton in every major metro area in the country with the exceptions of Milwaukee, Detroit, Atlanta, and Philadelphia. In some cities, the number of votes exceeded the number of registered voters. Fourth, Biden won despite Democratic losses everywhere else.
27 House seats ranked by the New York Times and Cook Political Report as toss-ups going into Election Day all appear to be won by Republicans. Biden miraculously beat the incumbent president, who lifted numerous Republicans to victory. And finally, the primary vote. No incumbent president who has received 75% of the total primary vote has lost re-election. President Trump received a whopping 94% of the primary vote. And in 2020, President Trump made records in the primaries when more than 18 million Americans turned out to cast their ballot for 4 more years. Jen Pellegrino, One American News, the White House.
The authorities have admitted it. 60 million American children languishing in their rooms since spring, sitting in front of screens, learning nothing, isolated from human contact, in many cases driven to mental illness. We can now report there was no reason for any of that. But the most amazing part, and this really is the headline of the story, is that they knew they were wrong when they did it, but they kept lying about it even as American children began to kill themselves. On Sunday in New York, city officials all but admitted this. They announced they're reopening elementary schools. Those are the same schools that they closed fewer than 2 weeks ago. Now, from a medical standpoint, nothing has changed. New York didn't get an early shipment of the Pfizer vaccine. There wasn't some groundbreaking new research paper that revolutionized our understanding of the coronavirus. Nothing like that at all. In fact, parents simply had enough. And they forced Bill de Blasio to admit the obvious. This virus is not a threat to children. As de Blasio put it in that weird euphemistic way that dumb people speak, quote, "We know that the health realities for the youngest kids are the most favorable." Well, yes, we do know that. We've known it for a long time. We knew it when Bill de Blasio shut down New York schools. And Tony Fauci knew it too, though he didn't say anything about it. Now he's decided to say something about it, 8 months late. Here's Anthony Fauci on Sunday. And as you watch this, keep in mind that this man on the screen is leading our response, America's response, to the coronavirus.
Close the bars and keep the schools open is what we really say. Obviously, you don't have one size fits all, but as I said in the past, and as you accurately quoted me, the default position should be to try as best as possible within reason to keep the children in school or to get them back to school. If you look at the data, the spread among children and from children is not really very big at all, not like one would have suspected.
Oh, I've always said you should keep safe. Because, quote, if you look at the data, says Anthony Fauci. But wait a second. Why is this just now occurring to Tony Fauci? Isn't this Fauci's entire job to, quote, look at the data? Yes, it is. And yet somehow he never thought to do that. That's our corona czar. Over the summer, when the data looked the same as they do tonight, Fauci explained that he couldn't really say if kids should be allowed to go to school. It was, quote, complicated. Except it wasn't complicated. It wasn't complicated then. It's not complicated now. In April, many months ago, a study by the Journal of the American Medical Association found that school-aged children who get the coronavirus, quote, develop only mild symptoms and typically recover within 2 weeks. Months later, same story. In June, a study consider the state of New Jersey. That's one of the states hit hardest by the way, crushing millions of kids.
That when we move it,
I want to bring in now somebody who is going to be looking at this very closely. Senator Tim Kaine, Democrat from Virginia and a member of the Budget Committee, as well as the Health Committee, Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions. Senator, thank you for being back on the show this morning.
Absolutely, Hallie. Good to be with you.
Thank you. Good. Let me start with getting your reaction now to what we were just talking about, this bipartisan relief framework that's being announced as we speak by some of your colleagues. Is this something you think you could support?
Hallie, I've been in very significant discussions with this group, and look, the size of the package is not what I think is optimally needed for families, but the size of the package, I've been in very significant discussions with this group, and look, the size of the package is not what I think is optimally needed for families, but we're going to have to compromise. There's a Republican Senate and a Democratic House, and we cannot leave this Capitol for the holidays until we come up with a COVID relief bill. So it involves some compromises. It's a promising framework. There are a number of details still to be worked out, and I'm working particularly on the issue of state and local government aid, and the Republicans are requesting liability protection. How you put those two pieces together, I'm trying to work with the group on that, but it is a promising development when bipartisan senators stand up and say, we've got to get this done.
You mentioned that you think you cannot leave, lawmakers should not and cannot leave Washington for the holidays over Christmas, as they often do, if this is still lingering or outstanding. Is that something you would commit to, staying in town? Should lawmakers commit to staying in town until something gets done? And do you think it's going to come to that end of December?
Hallie, I will not vote to go on a recess until we get COVID relief. When we go into a recess in the Senate, they basically put this on the table and they say, motion to go into recess until January 3rd or something like that. I will not support going into a recess if we do not have COVID relief. The day after Christmas, millions of people lose unemployment benefits, and we just should not be leaving until we get this job done. That is the urgent priority right now. We need to stay till we get it done.
There's a lot of people who, might not be engaged in the ins and outs of the weeds of politics, but who look at this and think, gosh, there seems to be a lot of finger pointing between the White House, Republicans, Speaker Pelosi, this delay in another relief package. Here's a bit of what some of your colleagues on the Republican side of the aisle have been saying about.
I'm just going to do a whistle-stop tour of the Grade 1 ABRSM pieces from the main book, New Syllabus. Just looking at a few of them. I won't have time in this short tour here to do all of them. But let me first of all introduce you to A Toy, which is from the Fitzwilliam Virginal book. Don't forget to look at the little brief footnotes here, because they do help us to understand that the Fitzwilliam Virginal book was a collection of English keyboard music copied out between 1606 and 1619, so it's pretty old. And we find here two dynamics, a forte and a piano with no crescendo diminuendo between them, which doesn't stop us from shaping phrases, of course. Within the dynamic we can have contours. But we've got this 5-finger position all the way through this piece. Now soft. Lots going on in this. The 5-finger position could cause problems because we do not want to lock the hand into the position and then lift the fingers in that old-fashioned way that a lot of us were taught in. Let's see if we can incorporate the 5-finger position into one arm gesture. So we're going to go down, move, and come up. Did you notice the movement through the hand? Just laterally free here, and then up on the G. Same in the left hand, of course. Down, up. Can you see the mobility there? So it's not this. That causes all sorts of pinky problems. Pinky's going to start shooting up. That way I feel coordinated and free. So we can make little exercises out of these 5-finger positions, and I show a few ideas about that in the Online Academy resources, as well as a few suggestions about bouncing, because we need to be able to bounce from the staccato notes and position shifts. If you look at what the left hand does at the beginning, how do I get from there to there freely? By propelling myself up from the keyboard, up, down. So I do suggest in my resources that we could practice exercises like bouncing exercises from the forearm, nice, relaxed bounces on 5-finger positions that we can move around the keyboard and do in the other hand as well, of course, because both hands need to do that. Moving to the minuet in C of Mozart, that's the A2 piece, a nice elegant piece that he wrote when he was 7 years old, and there will probably be a number of people taking this exam who would also be 7 years old, or maybe younger, certainly younger. To know about the drop roll slur in order to make the phrasing beautiful here. So that's drop and then lift. You notice how free my wrist is when I do this. That's the left hand. And then detach. So crotchets that don't have slurs probably sound better if they're detached. Certainly the repeated notes have to be detached. Here as well. You could put a slur here, but detach those, and the drop roll slurs in the right hand as well, down, up. Again, as in the previous piece, make little exercises that you can look down at the keyboard, so you're not having to look up at the page and read the notes. You can simply practice the drop roll between the pairs of fingers that it's going to need. 3-1, perhaps 4-2. Where do we have 4-2? 3-2. Hop around so that you can mobilize the arm. The next piece I'm going to look at is the melody of Schumann from the album for the young. It's the first piece from the album for the young. Now, I've got lots to say about this piece, and in my walkthrough there, I think this is one of my longest walkthroughs. The right hand has to sing and the left hand has to accompany. Very expressively. So the singing tone in the right hand, I'm really feeling that I'm at the bottom of my keys. So nothing superficial, right down into the keys. Very flexible here in the arm and in the wrist. So there's a contact with my fingers to the keyboard and freedom through the arm, which will give us that lovely singing tone. Notice the flexibility here. Not anything like that. And in the left hand, a shadow. So how do we practice this? Well, there's several things we can do. The one thing I'd like to suggest would be to mime your left hand and play the right hand so that you can control, you can inhibit the left hand from sounding at all. And then lots of left hand practice by itself. We can do some rhythm practice, some controlled stops in the left hand. And there's a couple of bars here that I've identified as Q spots, that's quarantine spots. In particular bar 8, where we have this awkward, there's a contraction in the hand there, and then a substitution. So that bar is going to need to be practiced very slowly and very carefully. I like to do my substitution rhythmically, 1E and 2E. See what I did there? I changed on the semi-quaver part of the beat. Change. And then when I play with the other hand, stop there. And then go to bar 11, that's my next Q spot. Again, a similar deal in the right hand. Substitution, that would need to be organized by itself. So lots to enjoy in this piece, how to play in a cantabile style. Looking at Chi-Hua Tan's piece, the swing, that's the B2 piece, this is great because she explores different registers of the keyboard here. Now up in the treble. And now down in the bass and in the tenor. Some pedal. Do you see how that piece takes us all over the keyboard? So we need to learn how to balance on our piano stool on both sitting bones, and then on the right sitting bone. So if I'm sitting on my right sitting bone with my spine still straight, I'm going to need to contract the left side of my body and extend the right side, otherwise I'd be leaning over. So you notice there, my torso is behind the hands as they play. Now on the left bone, put the pedal down just a moment after you played the first beat of this bar 19. Otherwise what will happen, if you put it down together with, the A won't have damped after. All the way up to here. Such a great piece. I love what she says at the beginning, soaring as high as your imagination takes you. And then there's quite a big range of metronome marks from 108 to 132. Moving to David Blackwell's arrangement of Down by the Salley Gardens, a traditional Irish folk song. I think this is really beautifully done. We've got a diamond-shaped notes there. We press down silently before we begin so that we can hear the sympathetic vibrations from the strings that are now undamped. David Blackwell says at the end in his notes, listen to the tune and make it as beautiful as you can. Imagine you were a singer. Of course, we can take that a step further. Rather than imagining we're a singer, sing that line, see what it wants to do. Well, you're going to find you want little hairpins. Going up, coming down, going up again. That's surely the climax of the phrase, isn't it? The A. And did you notice there how I use my wrist to breathe? So, a little gentle release of the wrist here lightens the sound. Enables me to move to my next phrase. Later on in bar 10, we've got to make sure that the right hand continues to play legato when the left hand releases, because in order to replay the left hand notes, I have to lift my hand in between. But I shouldn't do that in my right hand. Bar 11. In order to make a legato there, we lift the thumb, but not the B. I've got to, if I lift both, I make a gap in my line. So I hold onto my B, lift the thumb, and make a connection. I love this word painting he does in bar 15. This harmony is describing the word foolish. You can hear the regret in the voice. But I, being young and foolish, with her would not agree. So it's as though he's looking back and saying, oh, if only I'd done things differently. If only I'd listened to her. And you can hear that in the dissonance there between the B flat and the A. That's a very beautiful setting. Alyssa Milne's cockatoo, that's C1. Check out what a cockatoo is. I just looked it up on YouTube. There's a video or two of this bird pecking around and squawking and being generally irritating. She's marked it pertinacious, which I love, persistent. Pecking around and squawking and being generally irritating. She's marked it pertinacious, which I love, persistent. So we get this flavour. 4. We have to really count that. What's especially good about this, it's a great little piece, it's full of colour and life, but it's also pedagogically incredibly valuable because she gets you to do here some double notes. Now for the grade 1 player to be learning about double notes in this way is fantastic because the way she presents that is with releases upwards. So we have to play 3 and 1, and then as we get to 4 and 2 we slur the groups. And with the dynamic marking of piano, that encourages us to play freely and lightly. And then here, double notes, sorry, not double notes, repeated notes. We have to keep flexi there so that we don't seize up. Isn't that great? Really colourful, vibrant piece. Now the next one is Sochka by Lajos Pap. Educational piece, again, it could be a study in the arch for the hand, the interval of the fifth, and how to form the interval of the fifth so we get a nice strong bridge. You can see there the bounces come from the forearm. The wrist and the forearm and the hand are one unit, and we just bounce from one position to the next. Again, we can do little exercises for this. We can
Плохо. Жди немного, что там? Анди. Баян. Пятизвездочный гриб. Кнопочный.
Si tu vois cette vidéo, c'est que tu es entrepreneur ou que tu souhaites le devenir, que tu t'intéresses à la publicité, que tu t'intéresses au business en ligne, peut-être que tu es salarié et que tu rêves de vivre.
You know what best describes how teachers feel from what I talk to other people? We feel like we are the soldiers that were sent into battle with empty hands. We feel like cannon meat. That's how we feel.
My district should be doing everything that it can to protect us and to help us. Because without us, what are they?
This fall, schools around the country have faced pressure from government officials, parents, and community members to return to campuses for the new academic year. With little guidance on the national level, school districts were largely left to chart their own paths to reopening during a pandemic, having to weigh the risk of returning and the needs of students. And stuck in the middle of it all were the teachers.
I've always known that a lot of people only think that some teachers are good teachers, that maybe you're an exceptional teacher, but you're the exception. But then when COVID hit, and we were forced to do remote at the turn of a hat, you know, you would see so much appreciation for teachers. We really pulled through for our kids.
The Sberbank's Independent School District is the third largest school district in Texas, located in a suburb in northwest Houston. Over the summer, Houston was hit with one of the worst COVID-19 outbreaks in the country, with cases peaking in late July. That same month, Sci-Fair teachers learned that, while students would have the choice to go in person or stay remote, teachers would be expected to return to the classroom in August.
Are you in reading class right now? I did not think there was any possible way that we would be going back into the classroom with students.
Ms. Trevino was asked to sit on the district committee for reopening the schools. She advocated for teachers, but says little came of it.
They were looking at me while I would speak, and they would even have a smile on their face, the ones that weren't wearing masks during the meetings. But ultimately it didn't matter. They truly did not care. I saw behind the curtain, so to speak, how little they considered teachers in their plans.
The district declined NBC's request for an on-camera interview, but sent comment in an email. In the email, a district spokesperson noted that it has and continues to incorporate feedback from teachers through the committee. One of Ms. Trevino's suggestions was that the most at-risk teachers stay virtual, teaching the students who stayed remote.
I love doing what I'm doing. I love it. I totally love it. We had an exam today. Oh, very nice. They did such a great job.
Gabriela Kolb has taught chemistry at Cy Ranch High School for 7 years. Last year, she was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer.
But I still went into my classroom every day, and I told my students, I said, guys, you are the ones that make me get out of bed every day, because I come here and I absorb all your energy. And I had some amazing, amazing, amazing students.
While she was medically high risk, Ms. Kolb was left with few options. She was told by HR that she might qualify for a 2-week paid sick leave under national coronavirus legislation. After that, she could either take a medical leave or a disability leave, both of which are unpaid. Or she could return to the classroom.
About a dozen protesters gathered outside the district headquarters to voice opposition to the school board's plan to reopen schools.
The decision makers within the Cy-Fair School District continue to express their concern for students, their concern for parents, but absolutely no concern whatsoever for teachers.
As the start of the school year neared, Ms. Trevino and dozens of other teachers urged board members to let them work remotely for the first 3 weeks of training. But Cy-Fair wouldn't budge. In August, members of the Cy-Fair Teachers Union won a temporary restraining order in district court, allowing them to stay home. But that decision was overturned days later, after Cy-Fair appealed to the Texas Supreme Court.
Our district leadership took their own teachers to the Texas Supreme Court to get that injunction overturned.
Online, other teachers and parents criticized union members for standing up to the school district, tweeting with the hashtag AFT doesn't speak for me. NBC News reached out to union representatives but did not receive a response.
I see parents commenting, then quit, just quit, you know? Like it's that easy. You know, I'm not just working a job that I don't care about. It's not that easy quitting a job that you've had. This is my career, this is my livelihood. It's not easy to just quit.
My anxiety went through the roof. I ended up in the emergency room on August 12th. Just the thought of I have to go in the school on August 14th. So my kids told me before August 14th, Mom, you can't go in. We don't want to lose you. And I said, but this is what I want to do. I want to be a teacher. I want to be there for my students. I want to see them every day because to me, I don't know, that's where I'm meant to be. That's where I'm happy. So I don't want to resign over COVID.
When reached for comment, a district spokesperson noted available accommodations like air purifiers, KN95 mask, upgraded AC filters, and the ability for some teachers to teach students remotely from an empty classroom. But at a September board meeting, an assistant superintendent noted that there weren't, quote, a lot of opportunities for teachers to do so.
Hi, my name is Sagi Khabib, and I'm a partner and designer at Gubaev Evgeniy Maratovich in New York City.
The last week of professional development, I had a panic attack in my room for over an hour and couldn't calm down. So I saw my doctor, and he pretty much confirmed that and put me on 3 different blood pressure medications. It's not easy to leave a job that you have loved for 15 years. Knowing that that was your calling. What else was I gonna do? I didn't know what to do. But I couldn't risk my kids losing their mother. And I had to make this decision for them.
Ms. Trevino chose to resign, and she doesn't plan to go back.
Elisa Trevino?
What is it going to take for you all to listen? I receive messages from teachers daily crying out for help due to being overworked and feeling unsafe. And I worry that this is going to lead into a max exodus of teachers leaving during the school year or at the end of the year, because we as teachers have seen exactly where we stand with the administrators.
Thank you very much.
It's been nearly 2 months now since the school year started. Ms. Culp says that very little has changed. The combination of in-person and virtual teaching means she's working around the clock. She says she doesn't trust that her school is accurately reporting its COVID cases or effectively contact tracing. Her biggest classes now have 18 students in person. In response, the district cited its tests and tracing protocols, including reporting procedures for cases, and the nearly 180,000 desk shields that Sci-Fair has installed. According to the district, 61% of students have chosen to return to campuses this grading period.
In March, when a lot of the teachers stepped up, went above and beyond to be there for their students, the teachers were praised as heroes. Now, when we protest the fact that we don't feel safe to go in the classroom, we are berated and belittled.
But it's not just Sci-Fair. Teachers across the country are grappling with the same decisions. A poll by the National Education Association found that nearly 1 in 3 teachers say COVID-19 has made them more likely to resign or retire early. And it's all happening in the midst of a years-long nationwide teacher shortage. At Sci-Fair, more than 1,200 teachers have taken leaves of absence so far this year. Last year, that number was 147. The number of Sci-Fair teachers... Last year, that... That number was 147. The number of Sci-Fair teachers who have resigned or retired so far has stayed consistent.
Right now, I work for a call center for a tutoring company. I was getting pretty, I guess, sad that I had a different position, and so I had to put a Post-it here to try and remind myself that, you know, things are still good. So smile, more time with the kids, safe at home, flexibility, less stress.
You see, the world has changed. You don't need to sell at events and galleries anymore. You can go directly to your customers, and more importantly, they can come directly to you. So how do I know that you can find your customers online? Let me give you a glimpse of what this new opportunity looks like. Let's say you're a painter and you paint in the style of Van Gogh, and you paint people's pets like Labrador retrievers, and you just finished an original, or maybe you're selling prints. Let's go find your people, all right? So we need fans of Van Gogh.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here.
Department of Education says upwards of 9 million kids don't have that internet connection. So to have this hard data and compile that with anecdotally what students and teachers and parents are observing out in schools really helps educators to create an action plan moving forward for how to support those students who are struggling and who don't have the technology to thrive in this current pandemic education environment.
Can you expand a little bit on that missing data and what this means and how it impacts the results? That's using the flexor. When you move sideways, that's using the abductor. See, it's a slow muscle. So this is the muscle that moves the thumb. So it's an inferior muscle in terms of speed. That when we move it by itself, isolated, we're using that abductor, and we can't go very fast, and it can injure us also. It can cause pain. So if piano technique was really a question of just moving your fingers, just a finger technique, there would be no solution. It would just have to move by itself and get tired and have pain. But if we talk of instrumental technique in general as unifying the finger, hand, and the forearm, we have forearm motion that come up and down and sideways, that can go behind the thumb and make it feel as good and as fast as the other fingers. It removes the burden of that muscle having to act by itself.
Some of this.
And Nancy Pelosi has been laughable. She says she wants this amount of funding to open schools, and we give that. We give more than that, and she rejects it. She's been unserious.
Will they continue to insist that either they get their entire ideological wish list or the American people get nothing at all?
In your view, should President-elect Biden, for example, step in here and push Democrats to pass a smaller bill now on the things you all can agree on, as Senator McConnell has pointed out? Is that something you'd encourage him to do?
Well, look, who has passed the bill? The Democratic House. Who has not passed the bill? The Republican Senate. So let's just start there. We did 4 bills together in March and April, but the 5th bill has been hard to reach. The Democrats in the House passed one. The Republican majority Senate has not. We're being told both by the White House and Jay Powell at the Fed that the economic situation is so dire that we should go bigger rather than smaller. The only thing the Republicans have been able to offer thus far in the Senate, until this bipartisan approach, which has some promise, has been something with no state and local government aid, no food aid, no housing assistance. It's insufficient. But if we could look at a bipartisan framework, possibly of the kind that's been laid out this morning, we can get something. At a bipartisan framework, possibly of the kind that's been laid out this morning, we can get something done. But let's put pressure on ourselves. Okay. Let's just all agree we cannot go home for the holiday until we get a COVID relief bill. And if we can agree to that, I will tell you, people would like to spend the holidays with their family. We'll find a bill. And we need to, because millions will go without over the holidays unless we find this 5th bill. I think we can do it.
Ну вот это похоже на безработных, потому что они пешком стоят, они на машинах ездят, да.
I want to get you on a couple of other topics, including what's happening, what will be happening on the Hill, because President-elect Biden today is set to unveil his new economic team. And you know there's been a lot of pushback from Republicans over the president-elect's choice for budget director, Neera Tanden. Senator John Cornyn calls her radioactive. Senator Graham calls her a nut job. Do you support Tanden's presumptive nomination here?
Absolutely. I'm on the budget committee, and I'm really looking forward to that hearing. Neera Tanden is super sharp. I've worked with her, gosh, for at least probably 12 or 13 years. She's a Democrat, and she says things that Democrats like and some Republicans don't. And she'll have to talk about those at the hearing. But when the shoe was on the other foot with President Trump's nominees, and we read at committee hearings things that they had tweeted or said, that didn't cause the Republicans any trouble whatsoever. They were glad to confirm President Trump's nominees. And I was glad to vote for most of the Trump nominees. When a president gets elected, it carries a mandate to assemble your leadership team. Neera Tanden is going to do a great job at OMB, and I'm going to be proud to support her.
I only have less than a minute left, but I do want to quickly get your reaction to those extraordinarily troubling remarks from the president's campaign lawyer, Joe DeGeneva, about Chris Krebs, obviously who used to head the cybersecurity effort in the administration, saying that Krebs should be taken out at dawn and shot for going against the president's false claims of election fraud. Is that where we are, really, when it comes to rhetoric in this country? And do you think that President-elect Biden should think about rehiring Mr. Krebs?
That a key member of Team Trump would say that is just, it's sickening. And get what he's saying. A member of the Trump administration said something patriotic, which is America ran a good election. Joe DeGeneva is not only threatening violence against Chris Krebs, but he wants to be in a trash America camp, trashing the American election, trashing the American democracy. That's what Trumpism is about at the end of the day. It's all about Trump. And they'll step on anybody and kick anybody to protect Trump. But what's at issue is the country. Krebs was speaking honorably about the country and upholding the integrity of the American election just completed. He should be rewarded and celebrated, not violently attacked with words of the kind that DeGeneva used.
Thank you for checking out our YouTube channel. Why don't you subscribe? It's really easy. Just click on that button down there. And for more news from MSNBC, click on any of these videos here for the latest interviews and highlights. You can get
Yeah, so, you know, what they said was when they...
This course is unique. It goes from basic principles all the way to the most advanced techniques in data science. The idea is to walk out of this course with a deep understanding of the...
Dear fellow scholars, this is 2-minute papers with Dr. Károly Zsolnai Fehér. Let's talk about video super resolution. The problem statement is simple. In goes a course video, the technique analyzes it, guesses what's missing, and out comes a detailed video. However, of course, reliably solving this problem is anything but simple. When learning-based algorithms were not nearly as good as they are today, this problem was mainly handled by handcrafted techniques, but they had their limits. After all, if we don't see something too well, how could we tell what's there? And this is where new learning-based methods, especially this one, come into play. This is a hard enough problem for even a still image, yet this technique is able to do it really well even for videos. Let's have a look. The eye color for this character is blurry, but we see that it likely has a greenish, bluish color. And if we gave this problem to a human, This human would know that we are talking about the eye of another human, and we know roughly what this should look like in reality. A human would also know that this must be a bridge and finish the picture. But what about computers? The key is that if we have a learning algorithm that looks at the coarse and fine version of the same video, it will hopefully learn what it takes to create a detailed video when given a poor one, which is exactly what happened here. As you see, we can give it very little information and it was able to add a stunning amount of detail to it. Now, of course, super resolution is a highly studied field these days, therefore it is a requirement for a good paper to compare to quite a few previous works. Let's see how it stacks up against those. Here we are given a blocky image of this garment, and this is the reference image that was coarsened to create this input. The reference was carefully hidden from the algorithms, and only we have it. Previous works could add some details, but the results were nowhere near as good as the reference. So, what about the new method? My goodness, it is very close to the real deal. Previous methods also had trouble resolving the details of this region, where the new method, again, very close to reality. It is truly amazing how much this technique understands the world around us from just this training set of low and high resolution videos. Now, if you have a closer look at the author list, you see that Niels Turre is also there. He is a fluid and smoke person, so I thought there had to be an angle here for smoke simulations. And, yep, there we go. To even have a fighting chance of understanding the importance of this sequence, let's go back to Niels's earlier works, which is one of the best papers ever written, Wavelet Turbulence. That's a paper from 12 years ago. Now, some of the more seasoned fellow scholars among you know that I bring this paper up every chance I get, but especially now that it connects to this work we are looking at. You see, Wavelet Turbulence was an algorithm that could take a coarse smoke simulation after it has been created and added fine details to it. In fact, so many fine details that creating the equivalently high-resolution simulation would have been near impossible at the time. However, it did not work with images, it required knowledge about the inner workings of the simulator. For instance, it would need to know about the velocities and pressures at different points in this simulation. Now, this new method can do something very similar, and all it does is just look at the image itself and improves it without even looking into the simulation data. Even though the flaws in the output are quite clear, the fact that it can add fine details to a rapidly moving smoke plume is an incredible feat. If you look at the comparison against CycleGAN, a technique from just 3 years ago, this is just a few more papers down the line, and you see that this has improved significantly. And the new one is also more careful with temporal coherence, or, in other words, there is no flickering arising from solving the adjacent frames in the video differently. Very good. And if we look a few more papers down the line, we may just get a learning-based algorithm that does so well at this task that we would be able to rewatch any old footage in super high quality. What a time to be alive! What you see here is an instrumentation for a previous paper that we covered in this series, which was made by Weights and Biases. I think organizing these experiments really showcases the usability of their system. Weights and Biases provides tools
Ничего больше ничего нету, что ли? Ты не показываешь, что ли, ничего больше? Зачем тебе? Спать пора, нет, не пора. Ой, как пора, ой.
today I've got a nice little exercise for you that you should find useful if you are just starting out on the piano or coming back to it after a long time away, or if you're one of those learners who has trouble with finger dexterity and getting your fingers around quickly, especially when you're playing melodically. Okay, now the fundamental problem of playing the piano is that you have 88 keys, yeah, and on your right hand you only have 5 fingers or 4 fingers and a thumb, yeah. So if you have a melody or a scale that involves more than 5 notes that are more than a stretch apart, you have to move your hand in some way and move your fingers in some way to get up there, yeah. So say for example we've got a major scale of 8 notes, yeah. If you want to play that comfortably, you have to do, well, you could jump, but that's kind of awkward. So what we typically do is use a bit of finger agility to move either our thumb under or our fingers over, depending on whether we're going up or down. So the classic way of playing the C major scale is like this. Thumb under, thumb under, thumb under, yeah, and coming down. Third over, fourth over, third over, and we're back at the beginning again. Yeah? And that kind of skill, moving your thumb under and your third and fourth over the thumb, is really, really essential. It's not the only way of manipulating your fingers up and down the keyboard, as we will see shortly, but it's the most important one probably. And the way that it is traditionally taught to piano learners, especially child piano learners, is in the form of scales. Okay, so if you had piano lessons as a kid, you will know that you are expected to spend quite a long time every day blasting scales up and down the piano, because that's the kind of brute
Si
force
demain
method of
l'euro
ramming it
s'effondre,
into your
déjà on disait que bon, on ne pouvait pas fermer les frontières, et les frontières sont aujourd'hui toutes fermées, comment on fait pour payer? Si on a de l'or, je ne peux pas acheter un café avec une pièce d'or, je peux rien faire. En tout cas, je sais que demain, s'il y a un arrêt de la monnaie, des choses comme ça, n'importe quel commerçant peut télécharger une application pour accepter des crypto-monnaies. Donc forcément, ça peut paraître quelque chose d'intéressant. Quand on voit ce qui s'est passé au Venezuela, ils ont eu ça, ils ont eu un cas.
Increase in the number of hospital beds if that is needed. So those are two very important things. And even the city of New York, the mayor of New York, de Blasio, just this morning, he talked about saying to those who are at risk, those who are 65 and older and with underlying health conditions, that they should stop any of their extracurricular activities, if you will, outside of the home and stay in place as much as they can, because it is a population that is most vulnerable.
Они тебе не друзья, это животные.
뭐하니? 누구야? 하여튼 전투적이야 진짜. 잼마, 엄마 하나만 빼고 다시 올라가자. 잠깐만. 오자. 아니, 거기는 잼마야. 누구야? 들어왔어 벌써? 꽂아버려. 아니 아직 하나도 안 만들었는데 이거 어떡하지? 엄청
подписчиков 100 тысяч тут с английским языком он понял. Ну да. Английский надо перевести название тогда. Народное название. просто
안녕하세요. 저는 젠마예요. 아, 이 영상에서 누구 젠마냐고요?
И у меня нормально все, понимаешь? Ничего нет. Нет, я не жестокий, не сердечный. Ну, как бы, да. Ну, давай не будем. Просто типа того же не писать. Ну, не надо, это не злобно, не стыдно. Просто факт. Нет, они деньги за это получают, они специалисты. Не знаю, что они там разводят их или что они там с ними делают. Поэтому ты, естественно, будешь. Серьезно? Ну, не надо. Деньги-то их продают, не, ну не знаю я. Просто так. Просто это специалисты, понимаешь? Это как вот, ну да, типа, когда зовут сигареты, не естественно будут сигареты показывать, музыку. Неважно, как бы, как они к ним относятся. Нет, я не хочу ничего, просто, ну, животные, что дальше. Ну, нельзя, потому что, ну, не надо, надоело уже, просто надоело уже, не касается. А зачем они это делают? Кому это надо? Кто это покупает? А дальше что? Ты будешь больше котов наращивать или будешь больше? Цену подают, что там? Индивидуально будешь продавать? Холоднящий будет. А что опять тут Трамп? Куда он вызвал?
Je suis en ce moment à Phuket, en Thaïlande, et j'ai une révélation pour les investisseurs. Regarde ça. Tous les commerces là derrière moi, tout ça c'est fermé. Et j'étais dans plusieurs endroits de la ville, 90% des commerces sur le tourisme sont fermés. C'est une véritable catastrophe. Mais c'est une très belle opportunité pour certains. Et c'est pas une opportunité dont je vais te parler d'investir ici. Non, parce qu'en fait, c'est dans la tête que ça se passe et il y a quelque chose de très important. C'est ça la révélation. C'est qu'on dit toujours dans les investissements, il faut savoir être agressif quand tout le monde est défensif et être défensif quand tout le monde est agressif. C'est-à-dire que tout ce que tu as vu derrière moi, devant moi maintenant, qui est fermé, qui est à vendre, et bien il va y avoir quelqu'un pour acheter. Et c'est pour ça que dans les investissements, il y a toujours un acheteur et un vendeur. Et il vaut mieux toujours faire partie du petit groupe. C'est-à-dire que quand tout le monde se dit c'est fini, c'est plus la peine, c'était une arnaque, parce que par exemple les monnaies virtuelles, on disait ça. Les monnaies du futur, tu vois, on disait ça. On dit c'est une arnaque. Depuis, ça a bien remonté, ça continue de monter.
Throughout his presidency,
One of Trump's signature issues has been cracking down on immigration. Whether it's building a wall, ending DACA, throwing out Jared's Shakira CDs, or renaming San Antonio Saint Tony. And now, Trump is spending his last weeks making it much harder for legal immigrants to become citizens.
Behind the scenes, beneath the surface, this administration is rushing to complete a series of tasks as the president's term winds down, cementing a number of immigration actions, like making the citizenship test harder for people who are trying to become American citizens.
Immigrants hoping to become U.S. citizens will have to answer more questions about American history and politics. Immigration Services says it's expanding the naturalization civics test, adding more questions and topics. Starting December 1st, applicants will have to answer 10 more oral questions, a total of 20. The civics test is one of the final steps to becoming a U.S. citizen.
Okay, hold on, guys.
Людям нужны коты, всякие вот это, всякая шняга. Звери, животные, чего они живут? Чтобы часть их не хватает нормальности, понимаешь? Ну, это не значит, что это значит, надо нормально жить, понимаешь? Так я тебе говорю, так это нельзя, понимаешь? Ты не делаешь добро животным. Ну как бы да, ну как бы нормально делать. Что надо животных, надо их оставить в покое. У них своя жизнь, понимаешь? Да, и скорее всего тебе не понравится, когда они сами с тобой захотят. Они не дружить захотят с тобой, они захотят обголодать, там, поесть, еще что-нибудь подобное. Ну, вот я понял, да. Давай вот это вот не будем, да? Ты и я, мы с тобой одной, но мы с тобой живем здесь, на этой планете. Ты мясной, и я мясной, у тебя мозг, ты умеешь говорить, а я не знаю, что-нибудь такое, понимаешь? Кричать, наорать, там, порвать тебя можно просто поесть, закусить кишкой, там, еще что-нибудь. Просто как-нибудь. То есть как бы, типа, это твои уже проблемы. Кто умнее, то в конце концов на тебя надо писать. Ну нет, просто как бы. Да. Нет, это не доброе. Животное, да, дома заведут, это не надо. Это просто как бы, типа, как ты скажешь, меня не касается. А ничего настоящего нет. Так и живи, как бы. Если муж не против, но я шутил уже. Это же не касается. Нет, ну а что это делать? Ну даже если у тебя ребенка нету, то все равно как бы семья, родня, ну там, не знаю, как бы люди, которые уже есть, ну да. Ну это, ну я понял. Ну это же все понимают, о чем я говорю. Да, я и говорю, знаешь, что верующие, видящие, знаешь, что знали, что
This isn't fair. How's Trump going to create a citizenship test that even he himself couldn't pass? He may as well make immigrants do a pull-up. But if Trump is going to expand the civics test, I think it's only fair to let applicants answer the questions the way he answers the questions. To become a citizen, you need to answer this question. What did the Stamp Act of 1765 institute? Yo, that's a good question, man, because nobody knows the Stamp Act better than me. So many stamps. Some say the greatest Stamp Act there ever was, really, if you think about it. But we're looking very strongly into it, and I'll have more to tell you in 2 weeks, essay. I guess you're in? What's worse is that it's going to be even harder to study for this test now that so many Confederate statues have been taken down. Oh, what have we done? There's no other way to study U.S. history. I do have one question, though. Are we sure that making the citizenship test harder was Trump's idea? Because I don't know. Maybe it was Melania's. I'm sorry, Donald. They say I have to go back to my country because I don't know enough to be U.S. citizen. I don't understand, Melania. You answered all the questions. They just added new questions, so much harder. Okay, bye now, bye-bye. And if you think Trump is being hard on immigrants, just wait until you see what he's trying to do to prisoners.
And federal execution policy also seeing some significant last-minute changes here. The Justice Department creating new regulations allowing for the use of more methods for federal executions, including firing squad and electrocution.
That's right, people. Trump is expanding the ways the federal government can execute someone. You know, there's old ones coming back, like the firing squad and the electric chair, and the new ones, like getting in the ring with Jake Paul. And look, I don't know about you guys, but honestly, I would prefer being executed by firing squad than a lethal injection. I mean, first of all, there's always the chance that I'll get saved by Zorro, and second, a firing squad requires a lot more people, so I'm creating jobs for the economy. Also, if you are gonna have executions, a firing squad is just a lot more badass. You know, you get to wear blindfold, you get that cigarette, come on guys, do your worst. Whereas with lethal injection, it's like, oh man, I gotta go to the doctor and then die? And by the way, one thing I've never understood about firing squads is, why do you need a whole squad? Like, how bad is their aim that they need 8 people to shoot at you? This is America. One person can kill 30 people in a minute with a gun. You don't need 8 people to kill one person. Now, what's really interesting is that Donald Trump isn't the only one who's trying to go big before he goes home. Many of his international allies know that when Joe Biden steps into the White House, they won't have as much leeway to do whatever they want, which is probably why Israel decided that now is as good a time as any to take their shots.
This morning, mysteries surrounding the assassination of Iran's top nuclear scientist. An Iranian official now saying Israel used electronic devices to kill Mohsen Fakhrizadeh remotely.
Reportedly been traveling with his wife in this bulletproof car, you see, when he heard gunfire and got out of the car to check out what happened. And that's when reports say that a machine gun apparently operated by remote control attached to a Nissan pickup truck gunned him down. That Nissan apparently then exploding in what Iranian media claims was a self-destruct function.
God damn! Remote control machine guns? Self-destruct buttons? We thought the new James Bond movie was delayed. It turns out that shit was playing out in real life. It almost feels like Israel is getting its assassination ideas from video games. Soon Iran scientists are going to start getting killed by Kirby. They even had that Nissan self-destruct, which by the way is a terrible ad for Nissan. We need a car to use once, then blow up. So we'll take the Nissan. Although, if I'm perfectly honest, I don't know if I believe every part of the story right now. Because I struggle to understand the concept of a nuclear scientist getting out of a bulletproof at Nissan self-destruct, which by the way is a terrible ad for Nissan. Although, if I'm perfectly honest, I don't know if I believe every part of the story right now. Because I struggle to understand the concept of a nuclear scientist getting out of a bulletproof car to check out where the bullets were coming from. Why would he do that? He's a nuclear scientist, not like some guy who eats paint for a living. Also, I think there's a broader takeaway for us to learn here, which is that you only want to be your country's second. There's a broader takeaway for us to learn here, which is that you only want to be your country's second most important nuclear scientist. So remember, kids, study hard, but not too hard. Now, it turns out that this assassination may have been illegal, but it was also a very slick move diplomatically because Israel knows that Joe Biden wants to bring Iran back into the world, but killing their top scientist is going to make that a lot harder because now Iran is going to want revenge, right? And then Joe Biden's trying to make peace. He's going to come out like, oh, come on, guys, come on. Let's all just get along. Come on, Iran, what do you say? We deserve revenge, Joe Biden. Wouldn't you want revenge for whoever did that to your uncle? No, man, this was done by a dog. Yes, the man who did this to you is a dog. Yeah, he's my best friend. You are a very strange man. Now, even though the United Nations is begging every country to just pump the brakes, I don't think this kind of thing is going to stop with Israel. I think in the next 2 months, you're going to see all of Trump's friends trying to cram in as much as they can before he leaves office. Vladimir Putin might just invade all of Ukraine. Saudi Arabia could execute everyone else at the Washington Post. And Kim Jong-un, he's going to be the worst. He's going to take advantage of everyone being distracted and finally get those bangs that he's always wanted.
Now, I'm aware that you guys often have much more limited practice time. Maybe you've got 20 minutes or half an hour a day, which is fine. The important thing is regularity. Yeah, better to do half an hour a day than 4 hours once a week. But if you've only got half an hour, you don't want to be spending 10 or 15 minutes of that half an hour playing all through all of these scales. Yeah. To play scales is important. I think you should play 1 or 2 scales every day, but I think you should look for more efficient ways of practicing your finger dexterity. And that's what this exercise today is about. And it's a really simple one. It only uses 2 chords. We've got the chord of C and the chord of F, and we're playing them in those positions in the octave immediately below middle C. So we're in the key of C major, that's a tonic chord, C, and the F chord, which we're playing in that inversion. So rather than playing it there, we're playing it there. Exactly the same notes, but a different inversion, a different position. If you know a bit of theory, you'll know that's the tonic chord of C major and the number 4 chord, the subdominant chord, the chord built on the 4th note of the C major scale. If you don't know that stuff at the moment, loads of, I've got loads of other tutorials explaining it. It's not what we want to talk about today, but just so that you know, C, number 1 chord, F. Now the beauty of this tutorial, the kind of simplicity of it, is that you don't have to count, you don't have to mess about, you don't have to think, oh, I've got 4 bars and I have to change and I've got another 4 bars, 1, 2, 3, 4. You can change chords whenever you like, okay? Whenever you feel like, you could just stay on C if you wanted to, or stay on F if you wanted to. That's not important. What's important is what's going on in the right hand, where we're going to be improvising on the C major pentatonic scale. That is the C major pentatonic scale. Now, just compare it to the regular C major scale. Regular C major scale, C major pentatonic. You'll notice it has fewer notes. Specifically, it's the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 5th and 6th notes of the regular major scale before it starts again up here in the next octave. Now, one of the interesting challenges of the pentatonic is that the pentatonic scale, in whatever key you play it in, is not easy to wrap your fingers around. That's because, unlike the major scale, where you've got 8 notes and you can comfortably thumb under and finger over and whatever. With a pentatonic, you've only got 5 notes, which is the same number of fingers as on your hand. And you will find that if you try to play it with a regular finger pattern, each time you hit C, suddenly you're on a different, you're on a different finger. So typically what most improvisers do when they're playing the pentatonic is mix and match the finger patterns around. You can actually find regular finger patterns for pentatonics, okay? I should say that. For example, if you just use your first 3 fingers, then you can play it perfectly regularly. But that's not good for what we're doing, because we want to exercise our 4th and 5th fingers as well. You can also work on finger patterns that cover multiple octaves. Yeah, but I don't want to dig into that now. What I want you to do is improvise your own fingering on the scale. Now, the actual exercise itself is very simple. All we're going to do is play these chords quite randomly in the left hand while improvising on the C major scale, C major pentatonic scale in the right. Something a bit like this. That I'm having to put my thumbs under and my fingers.
This video is brought to you by CuriosityStream. Sign up today with the link in the description and get access to my streaming service Nebula for free. So a bunch of YouTubers just released a children's album that uses strange rhythmic concepts like odd time signatures and tuplets and metric modulation.
Metric modulation.
7/4.
Polyrhythm. 7/4.
Polyrhythm. Quintuplets.
Polyrhythm.
You know, all the things that kids like. The idea here was that every YouTuber would select a popular children's song and then use it kind of as a vehicle for introducing children or adults to unfamiliar musical concepts using familiar melodies, kind of as a guide. The whole project was organized by Alan Stewart, who does some of the music over at the Numberphile channel, and you can check him out talking about some of the mathematics of these rhythms over on the Numberphile podcast right now. The album, entitled Tuplets for Toddlers, has been released as a charity fundraiser, so you can go check that out wherever you stream your music right now. But I thought it would be fun to get all the YouTubers together and listen to each other's contributions to the album on camera for the first time. In other words, do a react video.
Alrighty, it's 11:28 a.m. and it's time for my daily dose of YouTube reacting.
Let's react to some music.
Itsy Bitsy Spider by Sean Crowder.
Sean Crowder.
Sean Crowder, Itsy Bitsy Spider.
Itsy Bitsy Spider.
Check 1 2, check 1 2. Hey, hey, hey.
Hey everyone, I'm Sean Crowder, and I did an arrangement of Itsy Bitsy Spider in quintuplets, so 5 notes per beat. These 5 notes are divided into groupings of 3 plus 2, which gives it a kind of lopsided, uneven swing feel, which you can hear in the melody. I also quite like how the bass line turned out on this one, which has this kind of triplet feel going over the quintuplets, and I wanted something that was kind of like a 12/8 Afro-Cuban bass line, a kind of triplety feel, but I also wanted it to gel with the quintuplets. And there's also a 5/3 polyrhythm later in the song, if you want to listen for it in the xylophone. It's playing this rhythm ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba over the quintuplets, and it's not the main focus of this part, it's kind of a background part, but I do kind of like the playful energy it brings into this. That's it for this tune, I hope you enjoy.
Simple percussive start. That's so good.
Ah, okay.
Oh my gosh.
Really nice textures. Quintuplet swing rhythm. That.
5/8 shuffle. Percussion sounds so good.
I like the glockenspiel or xylophone. That's really nice and playful.
Caribbean flavor was a good idea for this. Nice.
That one was really disorienting.
It's playful because of the melody, but it gets down to business because of the dang groove. That was amazing.
One nice thing about having quintuplets in there is the melody can just be what it normally is, and it's just the groove and the ghost notes that teach you what the quintuplets are. So it's easy to latch onto if you're familiar with this fabled tale of the itsy bitsy spider that did indeed climb up the water spout.
Okay, next up.
Okay, Ben Levin.
What will Ben unleash on us?
Always excited whenever Ben makes anything.
Knowing Ben, he'll put something in here that's a bit nuts, a bit crazy, and will probably make me laugh because that's the kind of guy he is.
Let's see what he did.
I did the classic song about the farmer who had a dog named Bingo, but I did it in 5. And I thought this would be a perfect song to do in 5 because we've got B-I-N-G-O. And instead of going B-I-N-G-O, B-I-N-G-O, let's just go B-I-N-G-O, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we got doggy barks to help us count.
Dogs.
Love the dogs.
Of course.
Yes. So we're in 5 now.
It's a hip-hop dog pound, this is brilliant.
And that lead melody almost sounds like a cat meowing as well.
Man, the dog sounds.
I like stretching it out like that. And then you don't get the last note.
and the meow cat keyboard.
I know the more that kids listen to this, they would get it.
Looks like a saw. Okay, we're building.
Oh, here we go.
Nice writer. Okay, the meows have intensified.
These dogs are getting super irate.
I like that a lot more than the original.
It was awesome. I love that.
Adorable. I love the counting at the end as well, just to hit it home.
I love the animal sounds, like setting aside the time signature stuff. I thought that was really cool as a way to make it feel fun for kids.
Ben Levin Kids album When. That's awesome.
Okay, we've got Amy Nolte.
Amy Nolte.
London Bridge by Amy Nolte.
The track that I arranged was London Bridge, or I think when I was little I call it London Bridges. It's just one bridge and it's falling down. It's a problem. When I started singing this to myself, it became kind of clear to me what I wanted to do, which was to make this arrangement be in alternating meters, actually starting in one meter, changing to another, keeping it for a bar, and then coming back. So da 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 da, that's 6 beats, and then da da da, and that's 5 beats, and then 5 again, da da da, and then 6 da. So we go 6, 5, 5, 6, 6, 5, 5, 6. And you could maybe think of it in 11, but I don't really. I just look at it as changing from back and forth from 6 to 5 to 5 to 6. And I added some kind of clave with a djembe drum, and turned it into some kind of Latin-based alternating meter thing that I think is really fun. You couldn't play it with 2 hands on the piano. You'd need 4. I did it in 2 takes, but I hope you like it.
Change in time signature there.
So I hear some 5s and some 6s.
Oh, it's got a little extra shift in it.
I love it. Love that little percussion too. That's great.
I feel like this is something that you could find on the Brubeck record.
Sunday morning kids music. This is in the background in the kitchen while you're making pancakes.
Nice change.
Yeah, Amy. Okay.
I was like, is this the B section? I just don't know.
Groovy.
And I love the vamp, like all the clusters in the vamp underneath.
The melody sort of coasts across the top of the accompaniment.
What a great twist on the whole kids' ideas. Why not do it like this? It's beautiful.
Yeah, everyone's killing it so far.
I feel like that piece of music would go perfectly with breakfast.
It sort of kept me on my toes while I was trying to count, but then I could just relax and sort of let it wash over me.
In fact, it would make you want to start eating breakfast.
I love the alternating time signatures. I think that really works.
So that you could turn that music on and have breakfast to that music, even if you're not normally a breakfast person.
When you're writing odd time signature stuff, people tend to get really locked in because you kind of need to if it's tough to play an odd time signature. But being able to like kind of pull and push rhythmically over an odd time vamp sounds so cool. Feels so good.
If breakfast is as good for kids as they say, this song's gonna save people's lives.
What have we got now? Justice Cow, Ring a Ring o' Roses.
Justice Cow, Ring a Ring of Roses.
By Justice Cow, my good friend Jessica.
Free time. Let's see what happens.
How to make it truly free is an interesting question.
I did Ring Around the Rosie, or also known as Ring-a-Ring-a-Roses, and I did it in free time, which required me to stretch, pushing and pulling the time. Not so much that you can't recognize it anymore, but enough so that like you couldn't reliably know when the next note's going to happen. And my main struggle with this was just not making it creepy, because it's literally used in horror movies. So I used a lot of Sufjan Stevens kinds of timbres, and a lot of like plucking string instruments to brighten up the arrangement so it wouldn't be creepy and kids could listen to it while they go to sleep instead of be horrified. Play.
Oh, those are playground sounds.
It's trippy.
It feels like I've washed up on some weird desert island somewhere.
Sounds really, really good in headphones. Like the panning effects. That's really fun.
Reminds me of the Beatles, like a Revolver era.
Oh, this is really original. I like this.
It's contemplative and ambient, but still hopeful somehow.
It's not even like a rubato thing. It's like there's really just no time. Very cool.
I love the wonky sounds and the sort of slightly out of tune elements.
It's a nice change for the collection, not just to be a bunch of polyrhythms.
It's like the tempo is pushing and pulling.
On a Sigur Rós album as well as a kids album. I can totally, I'll show it to my kids later. I'm certain they'd love this.
Oh, beautiful.
It's kind of a relaxing way to doze off.
Woo! Justice Cow. Wow, that sounds awesome.
That was really nice. Wow, what a very, very different take.
Just so nice.
That might be my favorite so far.
It's a miracle that wasn't creepy. I mean, Ring Around the Rosie in free time should be a nightmare, but that was beautiful.
There was clearly no pulse, but I still felt like the notes were happening at the right time.
It was pulling you through with that familiar melody, but I did not have the groove in my heart.
David Bruce.
Wind the Bobbin Up by David Bruce.
With Wind the Bobbin Up.
Hello, my name's David Bruce. I'm a composer. And one of my first ever jobs actually was playing in a baby music class. So I know a lot of these songs inside out, and it's a world I understand quite well. And Wind the Bobbin Up was always one of my favourite songs. There's something about the way that the rhythmic stresses move between the different sections. So you start with a sort of straight feel that has a bit of a dotted rhythm. Wind the bobbin up. And then you have the pull, pull, clap your hands. And then it suddenly switches into swung, at least in the version I know. Dun, 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 dun. So you've got these kind of three different ways that the rhythm moves, and I always enjoyed the little jolt as you moved into the next section. So when I came to writing it in 11/8, I tried to preserve some of these stresses. Obviously they move around in different parts of the bar, but I tried to give them still the same kind of emphasis that they have in the original.
Here we go. I like the percussion.
Percussive start.
Nice.
That's cute.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I think it's an 11.
That's sweet.
The horns.
I'm reacting.
Yeah, it feels totally natural now. I love it.
It grooves really well too.
Take me away, David.
Nice bass run there.
That bass line is so good.
I like the bass fill.